G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here, and right now it's Sunday the 15th of October, and on my local ABC radio news I've just listened to a description of how the leadership of North Korea has warned Australia against continuing to support the excited states of Norte Armed Americano in Tronal dumps persistent, what could you call it? Almost a recalcitrant series of attacks against North Korea. Now, here we sit in 2017. What you got to remember is 67 years ago, there was a thing called the Korean War, but officially at the time it wasn't a war, it was a police action mounted by the United Nations. And it went for 3 years, and between 1950 and 1953, the United States Air Force killed 30% of the North Korean population in total with aerial bombing. There was a ceasefire signed. No peace treaty was ever signed. There's an armistice. That means the army stays still, an armistice in force, but no peace treaty was ever signed. The Korean War, in air quotes, it's still happening. It's still ongoing. There are American military forces stationed permanently in South Korea, in Japan, in Okinawa. The American troops in Okinawa, 2,500 of them, on a 6-monthly rotation, move to Darwin in the Northern Territory of Australia. They stay there for 6 months. They acclimatise to the Australian Northern Territory conditions. But the most important thing is they are out of range of Chinese intermediate range ballistic missiles, right? They're also out of range of North Korean intermediate range ballistic missiles. The United States Air Force stages both B-52s, B-2s and B-1s through Darwin. So between Darwin Airport and Darwin military base, you know, the barracks where the 2,500 US Marines are rotated for 6 months, those are fairly interesting targets for someone like North Korea, who's only got, I don't know, 1 or 2 dozen missiles that can carry as many as perhaps 60 warheads in total. Yeah, okay, Darwin's a pretty interesting target. What other targets are there in Australia? Well, if the Pentagon wants to talk to any submarine anywhere in the Indian Ocean from Cape Town all the way up past Madagascar, the Gulf, India, Bangladesh, Thailand, into Indonesia, all the way up past the whole east coast of Japan and China and Russia to Vladivostok, down to Midway. You know how they do that? Well, at Northwest Cape, they have radio aerials going down into the ground, long wave radio aerials, which transmit subsea signals which the submarines can pick up. All the Americans' nuclear submarines from Cape Town to pretty much Attu in the Aleutians, down to Midway, Hawaii, that's how they communicate with them, from Northwest Cape. There's also Naranga, and there's Pine Gap. Pine Gap It controls the geostationary satellites that the US maintains to cover that entire same region. That's how they control their drones. The Predators that fire the Hellfire missiles in Absurdistan and Pakistan, they're all kind of controlled from Pine Gap. So when Julie Bishop farts in her trumpet and tries to claim that Australia is not at risk because North Korea is pissed off with Australia sucking up to the Americans and behaving like a pet attack-trained chihuahua. Yep, 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 yep. We helped America fight to a stalemate in the Korean War. We helped America get beaten in the Vietnam War. We got chased out of Absurdistan. We got chased out of Iraq. We got chased out of Absurdistan again. We're still fucking bombing Syria. Libya's a bloody disaster. Australia has been helping America lose wars or fight to a stalemate for 67 fucking years. We're now in a situation where American bases on Australian soil are within range of North Korean intermediate and intercontinental ballistic, intermediate range and intercontinental ballistic missiles. And they have nuclear warheads. If somebody was to be sitting in North Korea and think about what is the most cost-effective way to really fucking harm America, to crush the American empire, there's no point shooting at San Francisco. They're all on fire. Global warming's taking care of them. Their dam is broken. It's got the lowest levels it's ever had since, the 1960s. Oroville Dam. What have we got? Texas, Louisiana, Georgia, Alberta, Florida. They've all been smashed by fucking 6 hurricanes. You want to cripple the excited states of Norte Armed Americano? You take out Pine Gap. You take out Narunga. You take out Darwin. And Australia has no fucking defences against any of that. What we are about to reap is the harvest of the seeds we have sown by sycophantically sucking up to Uncle Spam. And Julie Bishop and all of the fucking Nationals and the Liberals and the Labor Party and the One Nationists, they can't see that because they are imperialists. They're still in fucking shell shock from January 1942 when Singapore fell and Curtin went sucking up to the Americans at a time when the Japanese never ever had any intentions of invading Australia. But Australia's foreign policy, Australia's military policy ever since 1942 has been based on the idea that Uncle Spam saved Australia from being invaded, despite the fact that there was no American fighter squadron sent to Darwin until after April 1942. There was no reinforcement of Darwin's anti-aircraft defences until after April 1942. There was no reinforcement of Darwin's artillery defences until after April 1942, when General Douglas MacArthur ran away from the Philippines in a submarine, and he came to Australia, and he said, "I shall return." And you know what the people in the front row said? "So will a dud check." You pass a dud check, it will return. Douglas MacArthur, he did return to the Philippines. Have a look at the Philippines these days. Rodrigo Dirty Duterte is running the Philippines as a corrupt, crony, capitalist, tyrannical dictatorship with guns. Corrupt, crony capitalism plus guns equals fascism. That's what's happening to the American empire out on the fringes, and it's collapsing inwards. But here we sit in Australia, and here I am to the east of Pine Gap and Narunga, and the last time I breathed fallout, was in 1963 when the British conducted a fissile yield plutonium test at Maralinga. So I'm really kind of expecting that sometime in the near future, as a way to cripple America and assert themselves as a nuclear force, despite the International Atomic Energy Commission's best efforts, I think North Korea is probably going to attack Australia, i.e. Darwin, Pine Gap and Narungga, before they ever attack Los Angeles or San Francisco or New York. Such is life. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.